A young man who was supposed to be a college football star at Baylor University will instead spend the next 6 months in jail and 10 years on probation for a sexual assault conviction. And now Baylor's president has ordered an internal investigation to find out how the school handled the case of Sam Okuwachu. Turns out the former defensive end was indicted for the crime more than a year ago, and he'd been kicked off the football team at Boise State in 2013 for unspecified reasons before he transferred to Baylor. But hardly anyone knew about his legal troubles until this month. Even Baylor's head football coach said he didn't know about his star recruit's past. Let's talk about this with HLN legal analyst Joey Jackson. Joey, good morning to you.
Good morning, Lynn.
The big question being, what did Baylor know and when? Because we do know Baylor never actually played Okuwachu.
Sure. You know, that's the big question, Lynn, in addition to which what they did about it. Now, to be clear, this issue was resolved in a criminal court. Many would question the sentence that was imposed. Of course, he's found guilty of second-degree sexual assault, which is rape without consent, from an incident stemming from October 2 years ago. And so the question becomes, you know, did they know that as Baylor of his past history, of course, this happened at Baylor, but did they know of a past history before he transferred? And then, of course, when the school learned of this rape allegation, did they take it seriously? Did they perform an adequate investigation? And did they, in fact, retaliate, that is, the school, against the victim? And hopefully this internal investigation will be able to answer those questions. And it's important to note, Lynn, that there's a strict obligation under Title IX on that school. Title IX, of course, preventing sex discrimination, sexual harassment, violence against women of any sort. And so a school has an obligation to investigate different standard, preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not that he committed it, not beyond a reasonable doubt. So if he's convicted criminally, how did the school not make a finding that he did something with a lesser standard? So a lot of questions, and hopefully, again, Lynn, that internal investigation will be able to give the answer to many of them.
Well, and one of the questions, do we know what happened at Boise State? The little information we do know is that he allegedly attacked his girlfriend while drinking and using drugs. She said he punched her in the head several times and choked her. There is a police investigation into that. But you say some may question this sentence on the sexual assault conviction of what happened at Baylor. Why do you think that that sentence may be questioned?
Well, I think that, Lynn, because whenever you have a sentence which carries a maximum of 20 years, and then because of the, you know, the 20-year sentence that could maximally be imposed, you have a jury that recommends 8 years, but that there be probation imposed during that 8 years. And after that, of course, the judge overruling that, saying you're going to get 6 months, you're going to do 400 hours of community service, and in addition to that, you're going to be on probation for 10 years. But it raises the specter of, is justice evenly distributed? That is, just because you're a football player versus someone who may not be as skilled, would someone else have been would a sentence have been meted out that would have been the same? And so I think that, based upon that, there'll be people who have questions about it. And of course, how the school handled it, that's the major question that that internal inquiry will look into.
Do you think this means that schools, and this is to your point as far as whether or not he got off easy, and we'll leave it to our viewers to judge that. Do you think that this will change how schools share information?
Well, it certainly needs to, and I think the internal inquiry will really dig up whether or not the information was communicated from Boise, Idaho, and that university to Baylor. Of course, the Boise, Idaho officials say indeed it was. The Baylor officials say it was not. And so certainly there needs to be coordination so that universities accepting a transfer can make decisions based upon their past, whether they want that student athlete or they want that student or not. And so that certainly needs to change. But there is, again, under Title IX, obligations that require that, you know what, when it comes to sexual harassment, sexual assault, that the allegations be investigated thoroughly, that there not be any retaliation against the victim who reports it, and that ultimately a, you know, fair and just investigation is undertaken. And so that's what remains to be seen, whether there was that investigation, whether it was fair and just, or whether it was overlooked because of his athletic prowess.
All right, Joey Jackson, thanks for being with us. You have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Lynn. You too.